Well, Ecclesia, if you have been joining us, you know it is Advent. And today, earlier, we lit the candle of love. And so far, we've lit 4 candles: hope, peace, joy, and love. And I think one thing that is so cool about lighting the candles of Advent is that it's really a metaphor. I think fire serves as the ultimate metaphor for faith. It's why we often talk about Jesus being the light of the world. And every year during Advent season, I say the same thing, and that is that fire is an unlimited resource. Just like love and joy and faith and hope and peace, we cannot run out of fire. If you think about it, a single flame can light every single one of your candles in this room on Christmas Eve. One flame. And I think that's true for the light of Christ. And it reminds us that we don't have to be stingy with our love and empathy. It's not going to run out. In fact, the only thing it's going to do is make the world brighter. I feel so lucky that I get to talk about the candle of love because 1 Corinthians really prioritizes love over all other values. It reads, "And now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." So, Ecclesia, I have a question for us today as we talk about loving all, which is really the topic. How do we love all people? It's a simple question, but I think the answer can be complicated. 7 years ago, I gave my very first sermon here, and it was a Sunday night. I'll never forget, on this sofa over here, 2 people were sleeping, and I was like, you know what? This just might not be my calling. It's fine. I later learned that the Saturday night services are also really sleepy because when I would attend them, I would get kind of relaxed and tired. So I ended up giving them grace. But in that sermon, I talked about a student named Fatih. And Fatih was this ambitious, funny, smart, brilliant young lady. She was going to high school, receiving multiple scholarships because she was near the top of her class. And like many high school students, Fatih decided to attend the college that she received the most scholarship money for. However, she did not consider attending the college that she would owe the least amount of money. So sometimes you can get a huge scholarship, but you still owe a lot of money because it's an outrageously expensive college. Well, Fatih decided to attend this prestigious liberal arts college. And she wasn't afraid of the student debt that she was going to take on because she was used to hard work. In fact, she had worked 80 hours a week. She knew how to get good grades. And she thought she could step onto this university with confidence, and she did. Well, as Fatih started to work and become a full-time student, she started to help her family and others out with the income she was making, and she was falling behind on her student payments. And Fatih ended up dropping out of that college. And 7 years ago, I told you that if you went to Edwards Cinema, there's a good chance that Fatih was collecting your tickets. She was working at Edwards Cinema to pay off a degree that she never got. And after I told this story 7 years ago, Ecclesia did what Ecclesia does, and y'all came together and pulled money collectively together and paid off Fatih's student debt. And I never got to tell you that part of this sermon 7 years ago. Today I do. I think this is what Ecclesia is so good at. In fact, in the Bible, there's this practice of doing this called Jubilee. And Moses says in Deuteronomy, he says, at the end of every 7th year, cancel all debts. Now, if you think about this, this is radical. This is how it will work. Anyone who has made a loan to someone else will just let the debtor keep whatever he's borrowed. Moses continues and he says, ideally, there shouldn't be any poor people among you. Ecclesia, this is why we're raising money for the unhoused, because ideally, there shouldn't be any people without shelter and a place to live. Ideally, there shouldn't be any people without clean water. This is why Ecclesia is so focused on the mission to love all. And this is how we do it. And one thing that I'm reminded of is that Fati's story existed before I told it. But something happens when we tell stories and see each other. It's easy to go about our lives and not see the stories of others. But oftentimes when we hear them, we become transformed ourselves into action. Many of you saw this viral video that went around 2 weeks ago, and it's of this man who worked at a grocery store. And we're gonna watch that video right now.
Just seeing if I could have help scanning this. Thank you. What was your name?
Ed.
I'm Sam.
Okay.
I actually had someone nominate you from this store and said you're very hardworking.
Well, I try to be.
May I ask how old you are?
I'm 88.
And still working?
Yes, I have to.
Why do you have to keep working?
Retired from General Motors in 99. 2012, I went bankrupt and they took my pension away from me.
Oh my gosh. Do you have a wife?
She passed away 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
She was sick when I lost my pension.
So you've been struggling a bit?
A little bit.
You said that you lost your pension?
Yes, sir, I did. I was in the Army back in 66.
So you're a veteran too?
Yes. The thing that hurt me the most was my wife was real sick. And they, when they took the pension, they also took the health care coverage.
Yeah.
And all but $10,000 of my life insurance.
Oh my gosh.
So I sold the house, sold the property I had, and we made it through. My wife died 7 years ago. Since then, I've been trying to reestablish myself.
And you're working here how many days a week?
I work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
And you do that because you have to, or?
Yeah, I don't have enough income
What's your dream?
to live somewhat the life I was hoping for.
Like to share your story and try and, get people to help you retire.
Well, thank you.
Of course. You're amazing. I want to give you $400 here as a tip. Of course. You're amazing,
Thank you.
man. Of course.
I don't know what to say. It goes a long way to help me.
Give you a hug?
Yeah, thank you.
Lots of love.
Following that story, you know that in the last 2 weeks, the internet raised that man $1.7 million. This is what Jubilee looks like in action. We see and hear the stories of others in community, and we act. We do something about the stories. It's this ancient practice that is alive today in our church. And I also want to point out that I think stories of injustice, as you heard with Fati, as you heard with this man, they are complicated. And there's this metaphor that I love. It originated from Irving Zola, a sociologist, but it's often used by others like Desmond Tutu, and it's become pretty mainstream. And it's the river analogy. And that's that if there is a river, a quick stream moving, and upstream people are falling in the river, it is our job to do a couple of things. One is to pull people out of the river to safety. And two, to figure out why they're falling in the river upstream, or perhaps even being pushed in the river. And I think that's how we as a society look at these stories, as both systemic and urgent. We look at the deeper problems of prevention, but also knowing we need rescue now. And the story of Hagar is a story about a God who sees others in their pain, just as we're called to see other people in their stories. I've told the story of Hagar many times because how can you not? It's just such a good biblical narrative. And in Genesis, Abram and Sarai, also known as Abraham and Sarah, they were infertile, or Sarah specifically was suffering from infertility. And they decided that their servant woman or enslaved person, Hagar, would have a baby with Abraham or Abram, and that it could be their baby. And that would solve the problem of fertility. And by the way, back then, this was not considered really radical. This was done. And as Hagar got pregnant with Abraham or Abram's baby, the power dynamics between Hagar and Sarah started to change, as you can imagine. So here Hagar is pregnant with their baby, and she has some power as a pregnant woman with their child, as a surrogate of sorts. And her and Sarah start to butt heads. And I gotta be honest, I think I'm team Hagar in this scenario, because she definitely has the least amount of power in this dynamic. But Hagar decides to run away. She's thought, you know what, I'm not gonna take this. I'm gonna take this baby and run off into the woods. And as she's running away, God meets her where she's at in her story. And a messenger from God says, look, you are pregnant and you're gonna have a son. I want you to call him Ishmael. The story continues, and as a result of this encounter, Hagar decided to give the Eternal One who had spoken to her a special name because he had seen her in her misery. Hagar said, I'm going to call you the God of seeing, also known as El Roi, because in this place I have seen the one who watches over me. You see, God saw Hagar in her lowest moments, but Hagar also saw God in her lowest moments. I think we don't give Hagar enough credit for receiving the message that was coming to her from God in that moment. And so I have 3 questions for you, Ecclesia, as we contemplate this story of a God who sees us. And one is, who have you seen in their lowest moments? Scott Erickson just wrote a book called In the Low, and it's all about experiencing these highs and lows, especially. And the holiday seasons often are a time of low for so many people. Second question is, have you met God in these moments, in your low moments? And my third question for you is, do you let people see you in the low moments? That can often be the most challenging question for us, Ecclesia. At the end of October, I started to experience some resurfacing of my OCD. And I talked about this in my last sermon. And after almost 4 years of remission and treatment, I felt like this was something in the past of my story. And I was honestly really let down that my OCD was visiting me with the kind of intensity that it was. And in November, it started to get worse. And I went several nights without sleeping. And what felt like ruminating turned into racing thoughts where I could not sleep. And thankfully, I have health insurance. Unlike the man in the video, I had resources for this kind of moment. And I was able to call my therapist. I was able to get in to see a psychiatrist. I let a bunch of friends know that I know they had experienced something similar, what was going on. I called Mitzi. I reached out to an ecclesian by the name of Callie Werner, who is an OCD specialist here in our community. I actually called Callie crying one night. And I said, Callie, I just can't take it. And she gave me an assignment. She said, okay, you're going to the aquarium tomorrow with Jet. I want you for 10 minutes every hour to be present. 50 minutes, engage in your OCD. But for 10 minutes, you have to look at that jellyfish and see God. You have to pet those stingray. You have to look at your beautiful son and marvel that he exists at all. And I was able to do it. And I got to tell you, Ecclesia, every time I was present for 10 minutes, I cried. At the aquarium, I'm just like looking at jellyfish crying. And Jet said, Mom, your eyes are so cryy today. And I said, they are, because the jellyfish is so beautiful. The both can exist, beauty and suffering. We don't get to escape the problems of being human. We're not that special. You see, Matthew 20 is a story about Joseph also seeing Mary in her low moment. Because don't get me wrong, a teenage woman finding out you're pregnant when you are a virgin and the shame that will bring on you, that is a low moment, at least for the time being. And so Matthew 1:18 reads, so here, finally, is the story of the birth of Jesus the Anointed. It is quite a remarkable story. I love that part. It's like the Bible has to tell you, oh, this is a really good story. Jesus is about to be born. Pay attention. As somebody whose mind wanders a lot, I like little markers. Like, okay, this is a good story. Listen, Ericka. Mary was engaged to marry Joseph. I often read that as Mary was engaged to Mary, but that is not true. Mary was engaged to marry Joseph, the son of David. They hadn't married, and yet, sometime well before their wedding date, Mary learned that she was pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, because he was kind and understanding and honorable, wanted to spare Mary's shame. He did not wish to cause her more embarrassment than necessary. Ecclesia, in a moment where a husband is finding out that his virgin fiance is pregnant, his first thought was, oh, I don't want her to feel shame in this low moment. That's how we see each other this holiday season and in Advent. We protect each other and join in our low moments, just as Joseph did. And I love this photo by Matt Chinsworth. He does several photos of Joseph. I think Joseph is one of the most underrated characters in the Bible because he supported his wife's calling so selflessly and humbly. And why I love this photo is you can see Mary in the background taking a nap. And if you've ever had a baby, you know that that is necessary. And Joseph has the baby and is playing with the sweet baby Jesus. Matthew 1:21 continues, and a messenger of the Lord comes to Joseph and really reassures Joseph. It says, she will have a son and you will name him Jesus, which means the Lord saves. Because this Jesus is the person who will save all of his people from sin. Ecclesia, this is this reminder that God, Jesus, sees us in our sin. And he doesn't run away from us, he runs towards us in our sin. Because we were made in the image of God, and the name for God given by Hagar is Elroy, the God who sees. And if we are made in the image of the God who sees, then we are to see others in their pain and sin also, and run towards them instead of away. I was involved in this luncheon years ago at River Oaks Country Club for Emerge. And this young student stood up at a podium in front of hundreds of people, and she was an unbelievable public speaker. She had that River Oaks Country Club hanging on her every word. Chris, you were there at that luncheon. And about halfway through, as she was talking, she said, I work at Whataburger, and people don't look at me like this when I'm in my uniform. And it was a powerful moment to be reminded that who we see and who we choose to see is often a question we have to discern as Christians. Are we ignoring the Whataburger worker but praising the person on stage? Are we ignoring the wait staff that clean up but trying to cozy up next to power and privilege? I'm not saying we're bad if we do this. I'm just saying it's a human instinct, and Jesus came for our sin so that we could become transformed through a different way. David Snark says that people walk into a room in two ways, and you want to be the latter type person. You either walk into a room and you say, "Here I am," or you walk into a room and you say, "There you are." We want to be a type of church that walks into a room and says, "There you are. I see you. I see you. I see you. I see you. And I care." Maya Angelou puts it this way, and I think Pastor Chris shared a similar quote last week. "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." What would it look like for us to truly see others this year, Ecclesia? To see students like Fatih, immigrant mothers like Mary, Whataburger workers like Brenda, and to see the thirsty as we're called to do in Advent season at Ecclesia. We're going to close out today with a video story from a man named Gasimu. And Gasimu is part of our Living Water family now. And Pastor Chris is going to talk more about how we can better serve as a community and see the stories that are so easy to ignore this time of year. So we'll play that video.
Every morning, I wake up knowing I must move faster than others. Get up earlier, be stronger, work without stopping, and somehow hold on to hope. Because falling behind means being left behind. My name is Gasiumu. I am 14 years old, and for as long as I can remember, this has been my life. When I was 2, I became sick with a fever. My parents did what they could. They turned to the only remedies they knew, herbs and traditions passed down from our elders. The fever broke, but the treatment left me with something far harder to heal. But I've learned to adapt, to persevere. Every morning, my siblings and I rose before the sun to fetch water for the day. For us, water was a weight holding us down. The stream was far, and the water was dirty. Every sip of it made us sick. By the time I returned, school had already started, or I was too tired to go. It wasn't just me and my friends who were falling behind in school. It was that my entire community was falling behind in hope. Dirty water didn't just steal our health, it stole our future. My parents gave everything they had to care for us. They taught me to keep going, no matter what. But then, one day, they were gone. My aunt took all 9 of us in, me and my 8 siblings. She worked tirelessly to provide for us, but without safe water, life felt impossible. When I looked at that stream, it wasn't just water. It was a reminder of everything we'd lost. It took my health, my time, my dreams. Even after I lost the use of my leg, it kept on taking and taking and taking. Until one day, everything changed. That first sip, it was like tasting hope For the very first time, cool, pure, and full of promise. With safe water, I could stay in school. My siblings were healthy. People moved to our community. New markets opened. There was life, so much life. I started to dream. I want to be someone who brings hope to others, just like those who came to my home. For the first time, I believed I had a future. But now our community has grown so much. One hand pump is no longer enough for all of us. The lines are long. The wait is hard. And again, I find myself getting up earlier and trying to keep up. And I wonder, what happens if hope stops? My siblings, my friends, the kids who come after us, will they still have water when they need it most? Safe water gave me a chance to live, to learn, to dream. But hope must keep flowing, so no one has to feel what I have felt, left behind.
Ecclesia, there's this beautiful Christian principle, and it basically just says, when it's within your power to do something good for another, then do it. If it's within your power, it's possible that you can do it, then do it. And we've learned year after year, I've been blessed to pastor this church for 26 years, and there are water wells all across the globe, because year after year, together, we've made a decision. And this is part of the decision, similar to what Ericka's saying. Are we going to be the people that come into the room and go, this is about us? Jesus was born and it's about me, right? Anybody remember feeling that way as a kid? Like this story is about me. And you mature a little bit. And you start to figure out, like, this story isn't about me. This story is about the other. It's about making sure that no one, Gasimu or anyone, is left behind. Anybody go through a unique exercise this week because you thought you might win the Powerball? Am I the only one in our family that anybody go through the little exercise and just go like, well, what would we do for the world if we won the Powerball? Seriously, am I the only one okay, I want some honesty in this room. How many of you have a ticket? Let's be truthful here. It went to 1.5 billion. There's some people around the room that have a ticket. We bought some and I was going to put it as stocking stuffers for my kids. And my wife said, they can't handle that kind of money. And I'm like, they're not going to win that money. But if they did, they can't handle it. They cannot handle it. We didn't put those in the stockings because she said it would be wrong for them to have that kind of money. But if you were like us, you at least had an exercise. And you thought, like, if I had that, right, I could solve the water crisis in many ways across the globe with 1.5 billion. What are the things you could do? If you hadn't done it, whether you buy a ticket or not, just go through it. But I wonder if you take time to contemplate the reality that the place that God has planted you, for 99% of the world, just so you know, you've already won the lottery. You have won the lottery. You were sitting at a place of immense blessing. Would you go through the exercise with what you actually have in your hands, what you have in your reach? What would we do with the reality that we have already won the lottery? And what will we do for others so that no one is ever left out? My hope and prayer for us, Ecclesia, is that these would not be holidays. Holidays are a season to burn yourself out, to expend yourself, to stress about decorations that you might lose over the next year, to worry that you're not hosting well enough. It's a season that you're so busy that you miss parties and you feel guilty, and someone gave you a gift and you need to reciprocate with a similar gift about the same value, or at least they feel like it's the same value. Those are holy days, or days that you set aside and say, these are about God and what He's doing in my life, and about the people that I love most and getting to be with them. My hope and prayer as we move towards Christmas Eve is that these days would be so truly holy that you would feel as though you were communing with God and you were orchestrating a plan to be a blessing to people like Gasimu and our kids in this community and so many others. As we come to communion, we're going to place out, both today and at Christmas Eve, our baskets to be able to give to our water offering with living water, our Advent conspiracy offering. This is a time and place that every year 100% of that work goes. We get to fund work in Cambodia and in 13 other countries. There are places all across the globe that are counting on this next borehole, this next opportunity. You don't have to be a health official or a doctor to realize that when people are pulling their water from a river or a stream where animals and people's waste are washing it, that they're going to be very, very sick. And that we have the ability and the technology to do something really simple, to punch a hole in the ground deep enough to bring clean water forth. It's a big part of what we get to do. And I think one day the main thing you're going to be greeted with in heaven is, weren't you the people that brought clean water to our community? Like, was that you? Because that changed everything for my kids and my family.